You know, it's not very often that I'm left impressed by anything AEW really does. Unless it's like a big show, like a pay-per-view, where I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a really good show, or something they do on Dynamite that was really good. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. It's not very often, and it's not because I don't like AEW. I hate this perception that, executives within AEW and fans that watch the program give. They hype it all up as if it's God's gift to wrestling, when I don't think it's nearly at that level. I think it's, getting there slowly but surely. But it's not there yet. But it's very rare that like I said, it's very rare I become impressed with anything they do. Recently, I was left very impressed by something AEW had put out on social medias in which several wrestling and gaming news outlets made sure to report. And that was official gameplay, or first look gameplay, as to what the new AEW game was going to look like. Now, if you remember way back when the game was first initially announced, the character models kind of looked a little janky, and the overall game didn't look like super impressive at the time. Keep in mind it was like a teaser, and it was kind of like alpha or pre-alpha gameplay, I guess you can call it. So a lot of us were kind of like, oh, okay, well, we'll see where this goes. And then they put out what they put out within the last week or so, which was the Darby Allin essentially reveal, is what I'm calling it, where they showed Darby Allin, they showed what he looked like, and then they showed gameplay and how he moved and how he attacked his opponent and how fluid everything seemed to be together with the movements that he was doing. My jaw dropped. I'm being straight up honest with you guys. My jaw dropped when I saw what I saw. And it almost kind of made me a little bit emotional. And I'll tell you why. Because it reminded me of a time when I was first playing wrestling games where the game itself was fun. It wasn't tedious. There wasn't a bunch of, buttons you had to remember. There wasn't a whole bunch of difficulty in trying to remember what button was what to attack. Looking at WWE 2K20. It was just really fun to play. And the game I'm mostly talking about here is SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. A lot of people, they would reference 2007. Anywhere from like 2007 to 2010 is like some of the best games they ever played for wrestling. And 2011 was my first wrestling game. So, and I played it on multiple different platforms, from Wii to Xbox to PlayStation 3. I now own a PlayStation 3 copy, which I found recently, which I love. And that's the vibe that the game gave me. It looks like an old school game, and it felt like an old school game, and the way it looked anyway, it felt like an old school game, and I was just super happy. And a lot of people say, like, or Kenny Omega, I guess he said at one point in time, he said he wanted the game to be like No Mercy. I never played No Mercy. I don't know what it was like back then with wrestling games, but I loved the fact that it just felt like at least a game, an old school game in a new school skin, if that makes sense. So here's the thing, man. I was happy. I was really happy with how it looked. I was really happy with how the character models came out. And speaking of the character models, when I was mentioning how it kind of was like a little wonky, the way they looked, completely different. It's like it was a really good upgrade from what they had previously. Honestly, I was really left impressed with what I had seen. And you know what? That's just a testament to Ukes. I think Ukes, for the problems they had, making the WWE games in the latter years of the contract that they had with the company, I could tell that they're kind of back to really caring about their product again, and they don't have to worry too much about like publisher-related bullshit, such as like 2K, or I don't even know about THQ, because I don't think THQ was all that bad, but THQ is no longer a thing anymore, so. But I'm mostly regarding like referencing 2K and such. Like, you could just feel like the shackles, at least that's what it looked like to me. You can feel like the shackles were taken off their ankles, and they can just run free with whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And they're making a game that I personally would want to play. I have said in the past that WWE or wrestling games in general should be a mixture of simulation and arcade, not focusing heavily on one or the other. There should be a balance of the two. WWE 2K, since its move to what was then the new gen consoles in PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, has felt a lot more tedious to play. The movement is slower. The matches are much slower. The movement doesn't feel as fluid. It feels a little bit more robotic, as if you're like it's like they're really trying to force these characters to move, and a lot of the times it just doesn't look good. I didn't see that, and again, the finished product hasn't come out yet, so I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch or pre-jizzing all over the place, for lack of better terms, but from what I looked at and from what I saw, I can't help but feel like that's the product that we're probably going to get when the game eventually releases, hopefully sometime at the end of the year. And it looked like everything I want a wrestling game to be. A realistic-looking game with obviously all the right movesets and all, you know, the simulation, giving you that simulation feel of what it's like to be in a wrestling match. But making the wrestling match itself arcadey. Nothing too tedious, nothing too difficult for a user to use or a user to play. It seemed like an overall good time. And I could tell with the way that they were kind of doing some of these moves with Darby Allin that it's like you can attack any which way possible. You know, he's fucking jumping off the apron, he's jumping off the top rope, he's jumping all over the fucking place. That was pretty fucking dope, I'm not gonna lie. It was really fucking cool. So, I look forward to seeing more of that stuff. I really am. I'm really looking forward to seeing what is going to happen in the very, very, very near future with AEW's game. Because, again, I want to obviously play it, but I want to make sure that it looks good first and that the game isn't completely fucking buggy and it's not a complete piece of shit. They're obviously taking the amount of time they need to take to development. I trust when Kenny Omega, who's one of the main guys in charge of this whole ordeal, I trust when he says they're not going to put out an unfinished game. You know, because even him as a gamer, you have to. He even understands. Excuse me. He even understands what it's been like for a player to play video games over the last couple of years, with being duped with countless big name titles that don't deliver. Whether they're completely unplayable upon launch, whether they're just lacking content on launch and they're lacking the features that were promised to them. You know, games like Battlefield, Anthem, Call of Duty, you know, even like I said, WWE 2K, and their recent games, or the last game they put out, has been absolute shit. And of course, WWE Battlegrounds is a complete abomination. I don't care what anybody says. I just hope the new game for them, 2K22, is going to be good because it looked promising. I hope it plays good. But right now I'm talking about AEW. And AEW is in a good spot right now with their game. That's a game, from what I saw, that's a game I would want to purchase. That's a game I would want to play. And I look forward to hopefully playing with you in the future. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ed0626. I hope you enjoyed this little United States Championship match from WWE 2K's 2K18 SummerSlam pay-per-view. I will see you all on the next one. Have a great day. Peace out. And of course, subscribe and listen to the 69 Whiskey Podcast.